Good evening, Beruchim Habayim Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. So the past two shiurim we spoke about the four galuyot and this fifth galut that we explained last week at great length, called Galut Ishmael. So somebody wrote a comment to me that I actually liked through a text. He told me to present problems without solutions is not fair. And I agree with his logic. I definitely am not one who believes in the scare tactics or in people worrying or panicking. I like living a relaxed life. And I think Hashem wants all Jews to live relaxed and happy lives. And therefore, if we presented a case of what seems to be a little bit of a situation, so we also have to present a case of what's the solution. And really, what does Hashem want from us in all of this? So because we had, last week's shiur was focused on the part of Bnei Ishmael and honoring the Trump's agenda this week with his peace proposal for Israel, which, by the way, if you pay close attention to last week's shiur, was literally like predicted in advance of the way it's going to work. Meaning not that I predicted it, Torah predicted in advance that Edom is going to go and say, make peace with Ishmael under these terms. And they're very different terms that used to be, much better terms for Israel. This is Israel's dream. It's never going to happen, just for the record, and I'm on record. But in theory, but we still have to know what's the approach of the Torah and what does Hashem want from us on dealing with Bnei Ishmael on a day-to-day basis. So, just because of time restraints that I don't want to have such a long shiur like last week, I'm not going to go through explaining why, but we have proven in shiurim years ago that Ishmael in Chazal resembles there's many resemblances to Ishmael. Last week we spoke about the Chamor part of it, but one of the other resemblances in Chazal is snow, believe it or not. Bnei Ishmael has a big resemblance in Chazal as snow, which is an interesting resemblance because snow has different contexts, good and bad, throughout different parts of Tanakh. And we'll explain a little bit. On one hand, snow is the resemblance in Chazal of what today they call hell. It's funny because today we call it the fire of hell. In Chazal, Gehenom is explained in the Midrash in multiple places as shaleg. Like for example, in Eshet Chayil we say, Lo tira leveta mishaleg, ki chol beita lavu shanim. And Chazal explain that if a person doesn't want to have a fear of having to deal with dinashal Gehenom, his whole house and his whole life should be about sharing. He should share with people. And a person who shares is protected from Gehenna. For example. There are many other examples like that. So, in that context of Gehenna, which everybody right away associates with something terrible and tragic and negative, and add into that Ishmael and terror and whatever, it kind of like almost fits the theme, right? But that's not intellectual. That's just an emotional story. But there are very factual things where the psukim where the Chazal call Bnei Ishmael some version of snow or the other. Tishaleg or sheleg, depending where, and there's a case for that. The flip side of that is, the Navi teaches us in Yeshaya in the first chapter, Im yu chataechem kashanim kasheleg yalbinu. Even if your sins will be bright red, like the worst sins, Hashem will help you that you should be able to do teshuvah and they'll be white. You'll have a white soul, a clean soul. And from there we have this application, which we utilize many times throughout the Gemara, of snow being a resemblance to the idea of Am Yisrael doing teshubah. I remember when my grandfather, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, on the few times that he came to America, one of the times he came in the winter. Most of the time we try to arrange that he should come in the summer because it was too cold for him here. But one time he was here in the winter, there was a massive blizzard that had shut down upstate New York where we lived for about 3 days. And for him it was a big problem because he used to go pray nitz every day and there was no way out, there was no in and out, you were stuck home. And he was older, it was dangerous also. So we got him a minyan of people that walked to the house, so he should have his minyan. And we thought he would be annoyed by it. And he was smiling and happy. The second day when the people finished the prayers of the nitz, he took out a bottle of arak. He used to call it in Arabic mahya, very appropriate. Today was the Baba Sali Silula, the master of distributing arak. But many Kabbalists have done this. And he poured for all the guests that were there, all the people that came to be in the minyan, cups of arak in the morning. Now it's like 7:30 in the morning or something, or 7 in the morning, on an empty stomach. Yeah, people are half awake, half asleep. Just walked through a snowstorm to be able to even, be part of this. And with all that, they're getting served arak at this hour in the morning. So, and some of them were Ashkenaz, at least the Moroccans in the room, they could get it a little bit. But the Ashkenaz, this is not what's done. But Hasidim, they do serve schnapps when there's a yahrzeit of a Rebbe or something after. But Shacharit, by them, their nets is a little bit different. By them, nets is Rashi Tevot, 9:10 o'clock is nets. So that's a little more rational at least. So one of the Ashkenaz guys there, I even remember his name. He's not alive anymore. His name was Dr. Schwartz. He turns to my grandfather and he says, Chacham, it's early in the morning. What's the celebration that we have to drink arak so early in the morning? And nobody was going to say no to him when he poured him arak, because they knew he was a big Kabbalist, and if he poured, it was a blessing. They weren't going to turn it down. So he told them, come to the window, I'll show you the celebration. He takes him to the window, and he shows him the snow. And he says, what? That's what you're celebrating? We're all locked in our houses. What celebration? So then he quoted him this pasuk. He said, Im yu chatayechem kashani kashereg yalbinu. He said, I'm in America already for a few weeks, and all I see is sin and sin and sin and sin. He wasn't talking about the Jews, chas v'shalom, but the goyim. And he said, it bothers me, it makes me sick. But now that I see that Hashem covered the whole place with snow, so I see that there's midat rachamim, mercy, He's forgiving everybody, and that. So it made me happy. So that's a reason to celebrate, to say thank you for Hashem. So next time we get annoyed by the snow, let's say that at least the optimistic side is God saying, I love you and I'm forgiving you for your sins. But anyway, we see this in Chazal in many places. Right? In the Bet Mikdash and Yom Kippur, they had a Lashon Shel Zehorit, that string that was red, and it turned to white after the Sa'ila Azazel went down, because the sins of the people were erased that way. It was a resemblance of the sins of and we see this idea in many places. Based on this, it's very simple to say what's going on. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying that there's going to be Bnei Yishmael. Bnei Yishmael has the power of snow. If you want to outpower snow, you have to outpower it with the power of snow. And the outpowering of snow is Am Yisrael doing teshuvah. And really, that's the simple understanding of a Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin that says that Ein ben David ba'el b'dosha kulo chayav kulo zakai. But one of the options are kulo zakai, that everybody does teshuvah and we merit Moshiach. Whereas it's brought down, Rabbeinu Moshe Kordovel, one of the great Kabbalists of Tzfat, writes in his Sefer, Gar ifticha Torah sheYisrael chozrim b'teshuvah u'miyad nigalim. That's based on the Rambam. The Torah already promised that Am Yisrael is going to do teshuvah, and immediately Mashiach is going to come. You have to understand what it means, what's the criteria of teshuvah, because if you think teshuvah is to become the chief rabbi of Israel, so then there's no hope, right? That's not going to happen. Could be teshuvah is a very, very simple thing. There's a very known Kabbalist right now, and before he's a Kabbalist, he's a huge Talmid Chacham, Gaon Olam in Tveria. His name is Rav Dov Cook. He's a grandson-in-law of Rabbi Yashiv. And he proved in a long shiur that I heard, in a recording, I wasn't there. Somebody sent me a recording of a long shiur. He proved that teshuvah doesn't mean literally that the whole Am Yisrael is going to be shomer Torah mitzvot. It means that the Am Yisrael will be mekabel ol malchut shamayim. It means that they'll say Shema Yisrael. That alone is called that they did teshuvah, because they have a connection with Hashem at that point. And he's been on a very big campaign for over a year already on promoting this idea of even non-religious people to convince them to say Shema Yisrael. Even just the pasuk Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. But they should understand what they're saying. So they should have some sort of connection to the teshuvah. He has a whole shiur to prove that. But anyway, so that's very simple, right? 1 + 1 = 2. We have a problem with Ishmael, you do teshuvah. Really, we wouldn't even have to go to this whole shelig. That's just making it more sophisticated. Because of course, if Yisrael does teshuvah, so you're righteous. If you're righteous, then there's no need for Ishmael. We could already have Mashiach, and case closed. But, of course, by me, there always has to be a catch and a surprise. So here's the catch and the surprise. The Zohar takes this a lot further than you think. It's very interesting. The Zohar in Parashat Truma says, and I'm going to give you a rough translation, this is not exact, the best I can do. The Zohar talks about different metals in the world: gold, silver, copper. So the Zohar says that gold in its sod, in its depth, in its spiritual secret, resembles Rosh Hashanah. Why? Because Rosh Hashanah is the day of gold, because gold resembles judgment, and Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment. That's the day that the Shaletet Bo Midat Adin, right? The Midat Adin is strong on Rosh Hashanah. And the Zohar brings a pasuk in Iyov to prove the idea. The Zohar continues and says, Kesef, silver, resembles Yom Kippur. Why? So the Zohar says, because that's the day that the sins of the Jewish nation become white. Like it says in the pasuk, Im yu chatayechem kashanim kasheleg yalbinu. The pasuk that we quoted, the Zohar brings down. But then the Zohar quotes the second pasuk. Ki bayom hazeh, on that day, Yom Kippur, Hashem says, Yichaper alechem, l'taher etchem, He's going to forgive you. Pasuk in Vaikrat, et Zayin, pasuk lamed. Nechoshet, copper, comes the Zohar and writes, is Yemei Korbanot HaChag. Resembles the sacrifices that they brought in the temple and the Chag, which is Sukkot. Sheheim Sod Merkevet Ha'amim, that resembles the nations of the world, and that's called Sod Hararei Nechoshet, the secret of the mountains of copper, whatever that means. Don't ask me for an explanation because I don't know. And the Zohar writes, and therefore, mitma'atim ve'olchim, they get less and less. And the truth is, that's what happened historically, right? The nations of the world became larger in quantity, but less in sectorial parts. I'm talking about empires, really, not random people that decided to open cults. Interesting thing, in Daniel, the Maharal quotes this is not mine. In Daniel, the Maharal quotes that Kesef, besides resembling Yom Kippur, resembles a kingdom, a rulership. And what's the rulership? The Maharal's in Netzach Yisrael in the 21st chapter, if you want to look it up. He says it resembles the rulership of Paras. As we proved 2 weeks ago, Iran today, the Iranian regime. What does Kesef have to do with Paras? How did the Iranians become silver? What does one have to do with the other? So the truth is, it's interesting, because on our shiurim in the previous years that had to do with Purim, I'm sure we'll talk about it again in a few weeks closer to Purim, we explained the Kabbalistic link between Yom Kippur and Purim. Purim was under the rulership of Paras Umadai, and Yom Kippur is the Bechina of Kesef. So there's a direct link. It actually fits. The puzzle fits pretty well. It's kind of an interesting thing. But the Ramchal, that was quoted from the Maharal. The Ramchal, Rabbeinu Moshe Chaim Lutzato, in a sefer called Tikkunim Chadashim, and again, I give credit to my dear friend Rav Neugershel for a lot of the sources. Over there, the Ramchal brings down another thing. He brings down that the pasuk says, Elohei Chesef, a god of silver, Elohei Zahav, meaning an idol, and an idol of gold, Lo ta'asu lachem, you're not allowed to make for you. Can't make idols. Comes the Ramchal and writes, Elohei Chesef ze Ishmael. That's the Arabs, the Palestinians. Elohei Zahav ze Edom. That's the Western civilization. And God warns the Jewish nation that don't turn these people into an idol and don't turn those into an idol. Not this, not that. Interesting. Now the question is, what does it mean? So Chazal say in the Midrash, Yisrael ve'akum nichnasim ladin b'yom HaKippurim. The Jews and the non-Jews go into Judgment Day on Yom Kippur. Ve'ein habriot yodot mi nitzeach. And we don't know who won, who came out victorious. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so God tells us, Vechem biyadchem sheyedu hakol she'atem zachitem badin. Take your lulavim in your hands on Sukkot, because that'll be like the sword of victory, the victory parade. That'll show that you were victorious in your battle against the Akum on the Day of Judgment. The Yalkut, that comes from a Midrash Tanchuman Parashat Emor Perek Yudchet. In the Yalkut Shimoni, on the same Midrash, it actually says it's talking about Rosh Hashanah, and there's a little bit of a similar explanation, but with a few variations. Now there's something interesting. What's the Nechoshet but? So we said Zahav, Kesef. We explained What's nechoshet? The copper. We don't want to forget about the copper, right? It's also a precious metal. Maybe costs less per ounce, but it's still, And the Torah spoke about it, so that means there's an importance to it. So it is interesting. In the Sefer Zohar Kadmon, it says that Sukkot is a holiday that resembles copper. And the Zohar continues and says, and copper resembles the Nachash Kadmoni, meaning the Yetzer Hara in its original form, right after Adam and Chava had their sin. And that is the power of Amalek. Amalek and Edom is the same thing. Meaning, the Western Galut, the Galut Edom, Amalek is coming from this power of this idea of Nechoshet, of Kappa. No. And maybe, and the truth is that there's other Simanim and Chazal also to talk about it, and in this idea. Based on this, comes the Zohar and throws a mind-boggling curve. The Zohar writes that at the end of days, part of Bnei Yishmael, part of the Arabs, are going to do Teshuvah also. It's interesting. I can't tell you I studied it enough to understand completely the dynamic and what that means and why. And I don't think it means do Teshuvah, meaning convert to Judaism, at least in my understanding. But the Zohar says that. And therefore he says that that's why Bnei Ishmael have this resemblance to silver. And silver, as we explained from the Zohar, is Yom Kippur, because they also have in them an element of doing Teshuvah. Maybe that would be the hope of one day being able to live a civilized life with Muslim countries, which we see happening with like the Emirates and others that are starting to neutralize their terms with the Jewish nation now, in Israel. But in conclusion for this segment, we see an interesting thing, that what comes out is that one of the first responses that the Jews obviously have to anything would be a simple response, a very hard response, but a simple response of at least bettering our ways in something. Now, us as a Jewish nation, we don't believe in everything or nothing. We believe in something, in small steps. So if every Jew took a baby step towards getting closer to God, even in the most trivial thing, that could make the difference, and that could be the game changer. I once heard from Rav Kaduri himself that it was during a time there was a lot of conflict in Israel, and the friction situation was very bad, and there was a lot of bloodshed. And Rav Kaduri said one Shabbat that he feels that this coming week it's going to slow down a lot, it's going to be a lot better. So Rav Kaduri was a Malach Hashem Tzvakot, he had Ruach HaKodesh and there's no way to explain it at all. So everybody knew that it's going to be that way. But somebody over there in the room had guts. And he asked him, Rabbi, how do you know? Normally you don't ask that to big Mekubalim. That's not so appropriate, because even if they'll explain you're not going to understand. Because you don't understand the language that they're talking to you in. They're going to start giving you calculations of malachim, and this is what are you going to get out of it? Nothing. Rav Kaduri told him, you should know also. So I said, what do you mean? How should I know? He said, you didn't walk here today? So I said, of course I walked here. What do you think? How else do you think that I got it today? He said, didn't you realize that the roads were a lot emptier than a regular Shabbat? So he said, yeah, people are scared to go out. There's bombings everywhere. There's shootings everywhere. He said, it doesn't make a difference why. At the end of the day, this Shabbat had a fraction of the amount of Chilul Shabbat that a regular Shabbat has. That in Shamayim has a huge power. Next week, things are going to quiet down. And it was interesting. By the time Shabbat was over, people started right away looking. Then it wasn't on phones like we do it today. It was other ways, the radio, whatever, to get the news. And they said that the Israeli military is in negotiations with whoever it was, that it wasn't the Hamas, it was some other group, the Fatah, to quiet things down. And by Monday, it was already quiet for a while afterwards. Very interesting thing. I think another example to that is a very unfortunate time in Israeli history, but a very miraculous time in Israeli history, the Gulf War. 39 missiles hit Israel from some lunatic in Iraq that he went and inscribed on them, Nebuchadnezzar. People don't know this. The Israelis have to prove it. You can find it in a simple search. he inscribed the name Nebuchadnezzar. He's coming to destroy Israel like Nebuchadnezzar. And only one person died. Well, two people died. One was an indirect death. That was a lady did not open the vent of a gas mask, so she choked. So that's not a war death. That's a death as a result of a tragedy. One person died from a hit of a rocket. Now let's put things in perspective. 11,000 apartments were destroyed. If you have 11,000 apartments destroyed, how do you explain only one person died? And who was that one person, by the way? He was a guy who had this anti-Shabbat agenda. He used to drive his motorcycle from Ramat Gan to Bnei Brak on Shabbat and try to break the barrier to get in with his motorcycle to upset the religious Jewry on Shabbat that he's driving on Shabbat just to spite. That was the only guy who died. That is mind-boggling. How many rockets fell in Israel, missiles that weren't knocked out? How many actually landed in Israel during the Gulf War? 39. How many commandments are there on Shabbat? Melachot? Tal Melachot, 39 Melachot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent 39 missiles for 39 Melachot of Shabbat. The only guy who got killed was a guy who was a Mechalel Shabbat b'Fahesia Lahachis. Like a regular Mechalel Shabbat, he's a Tinok Shenishba. But this guy was out of spite. 11,000 apartments get destroyed, and there's no end of miracles. People wrote whole books then, this was the beginning of the 90s, books after books after books of all the miracles that happened. There's no rational way to explain. And just to put things in perspective, Iraq had shot missiles in another direction as well during that period of time, and from one scud, there were hundreds of casualties. And that was God's way of showing the Israelis, look what could have been here. They got one, you got 39. They didn't have a dense population. You do have a dense population. And you had relatively nothing, not that one Jew's life is nothing, it's a tragedy. But, on military terms, you got away cheap. And look what could have been. Then, Rav Kaduri said also, this I was too young to hear from him, I wasn't close to Rav Kaduri then, but others heard it and told it to me, that he said that he knows that nothing bad is going to happen in Israel during the war, because the roads are empty on Shabbat. And if people are not driving on Shabbat, there's not less Chilul Shabbat. My point is, less Chilul Shabbat, you think they all became Shomrei Shabbat? No. But that shows that by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even one drop, one step towards him, the tiniest thing, is also worth something that's priceless. Oh, priceless. Sometimes you have a friend who doesn't keep Shabbat, but you can't convince him, it's not working, you talk to him, he's not going to listen, he's going to resent it. So maybe what you could do is invite him Friday night, give him the drink, he'll be tired, he'll go to sleep, and he'll wake up after Shabbat, so at least he didn't desecrate Shabbat. It's also a step, as crazy as that sounds. At least he wasn't on his phone and smoking and driving, and at least that. Every step towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, every tiny drop of a step that a person makes towards Hashem is a game changer, historically for the Jewish nation as a nation, and for the person himself spiritually as well, and that's very important to remember. So that's the Koach HaTshuvah. Obviously, I want to quote a Zohar that should have been quoted last week, but last week's shiur was an hour and 31 minutes. There's a limit, so I couldn't quote anymore. Don't worry, this week you're going to get shorter, so I make up. So I stay on good terms with everybody. My friends sometimes text me in the morning, is it worth all this data on my phone to listen to last night's class? When it's a long one. Tell them that's for you to decide. Tell me afterwards. But anyway, so there is a Zohar that's very important to know. The Zohar says an interesting thing. How did Yishmael get at all power? So last week we explained they got power directly from Hashem because of Avraham Avinu's prayer. The Zohar adds on another twist. The Zohar says that Yishmael went to God and told God, why are the Jews getting Israel? It's not fair. I should get Israel. Why should I get Israel? So he said, Avraham Avinu had two kids, Yitzchak and Ishmael. God, you commanded him to do Brit Milah. I was older. For me, it was much harder. He was a baby. I did Brit Milah. He did Brit Milah. Not only that, the Jews until today, we still keep Brit Milah. Every Jew does a Brit Milah. All over the world, in Russia and this and that, and the communist countries, they risk their lives to keep the mitzvah Brit Milah. And Lahavdil Fafei Avdalot, Yimach Shema, my cousins, They also do Brit Milah, the Arabs. They do it at a different age. And what? So why does he gets Israel, not me? Not fair. Comes the Zohar and says, woe to that moment that he came to Hashem with this claim. And because they do Brit Milah, that's why they will have control over Israel. And they had control over Israel for close to 1900 years. But we do Milah in a two-step process. Milah and what's called Priya in Halacha. I don't want to get too graphic, so figure it out anyway. No, just, this is not a medical class. They do just the Brit Milah without the Priya. So since he doesn't do the whole mitzvah, and we do the whole mitzvah, at the end of days, we're going to take the land back, which is what we see happening. This is what the Zohar says. If that's the case, what the Zohar is really hinting to is that, what does Brit Milah resemble? Brit Kodesh. Now it's Shevavim, it's the Shmot Vayirav, it's the time of Tikkun HaBrit. Things that have to do with Kedusha. So one of the responses that Am Yisrael has to a situation where they're in trouble is to raise the level of Kedusha and Tzniut within our communities. It should be V'haya Machanecha Kadosh, our communities should be pure. And if instead of putting armed guards by doors of shuls, which I'm not saying you shouldn't do, I don't know, each person should ask his gadol what you do or don't have to do, they would maybe give educational classes to boys and girls on the importance of staying pure spiritually, it would be a lot more effective. And hate crimes would go down very quickly. It's a lot more effective spiritual system, at least, than the system that they're using. Because Hashem said why the battle's happening, so he also gave the solution. And for this, I got to share with you a wild story. The Baba Sali, who was Yortzei, was today. Kadosh Baruch Hu should help. He should be a militziosh on all of us from Shamayim. I'm way too young to have had a relationship with the Baba Sali, but I did have the merit to see him twice. Once that I don't remember at all, once that I barely vaguely remember as a very young child. But my mother remembers it very well, because the Baba Sali gave me arak to drink when I was a little child, very little child, and large quantities of arak. And my mother's, an American. She don't know stuff like that, and she's Ashkenaz too. So by her, there's no Kabbalist gave you this. That was almost a death sentence there. But yeah, it was interesting. Baba Sali also didn't like pictures. When I was there, he told somebody to put me on his lap and to take a picture. One of the only times that he ever allowed anybody to take a picture. And I don't know why he did that until today, but I view it as a big honor and a kameya of some sort that the Baba Sali decided. I don't know any of it. But my mother says it didn't affect me one drop. I didn't gag. I did not like it. She says, you drank it better than the sweet drinks we used to give you. Maybe that's why until today I like drinking. I don't know. But could be, I don't know. The Baba Sali's Yortzei was today. Malach Elokim Kadosh Elyon, my father, Shibadel Chaim Tovim, had the zchut to be very, very close to him for many, many years. My grandfather learned Kabbalah with him for many years. And the Baba Sali, because of his high levels of Kedusha, amongst the many things that he did, one of the things was he didn't see women. He didn't see women, didn't speak to women. There were 3 times in his life that we know of, maybe there were more, I don't know, but there was only 3 times that are publicly known that he saw women. I'm not going to go through all 3, I'm just going to tell you one of the 3 times. One day the Baba Sali was home, and people came, a mother and a daughter together, came to see him. Now when ladies wanted to see the Baba Sali, you couldn't go in because you didn't see women and you couldn't speak to him. So they would sit in the outside room, they would write a piece of paper, and the Gabbai would take in the piece of paper and he would read to the Baba Sali who's here and what they want, and the Baba Sali would give a blessing or whatever it was. Why did this mother and girl come? They were non-religious people. Listen to this. Their husband / father, meaning the wife was there and the daughter was there, got a very rare disease that was making his whole inside collapse. And in Israel they had no treatments for him. And they told him that after a lot of research that in Texas somewhere there's a hospital that they could help him. So they flew to the United States at private pay cost them beyond the money that they owned. And he was here for a while, and whatever they tried here didn't work either. And then the doctors here said, fly him back to Israel, at least let him die in peace at home, because there's nothing else that we could do. So he's critically ill in the hospital. They're spending what they think is the last weeks with him. And one day the doctor turns to them, and he tells them that, I don't know how to say this to you, but realistically, based on all the signs, in the best case scenario, he has until the end of tomorrow to stay alive. That's the best case scenario. Now in Hebrew, if you say it's somebody's last day, the words in Hebrew are Machar ze hayom ha'acharon shelo. Tomorrow is his last day. That's the way you say it in Hebrew. So that's what the doctor tells a wife and a daughter. Hashem Shalom, we should never have to hear such words. Hashem Yirachim, what a tzar that is. What happens to a person when he realizes that the doctors have nothing to do? So suddenly you remember, oh, there's a God in the world. Maybe he could help. It's a shame. If they would have remembered God before, then they wouldn't need the doctors. But right, the Gemara says, why pray once you're sick? Pray that you shouldn't get sick in the first place. Prevent it in advance. I go a lot to places where people say over miracles that happen to them, and I repeat a lot in the shiurim because people call me all day with stories. So on one hand, I like saying it over because it's beautiful to see the ness of Hashem and the koach of Hashem in the world and everything. But there's a part of me that also wants to tell the person, maybe learn a lesson for next time. Pray that you shouldn't have to come on to these miracles anymore. You should be able to live a normal life without drama and then get bailed out. Yeah, maybe you should have a normal situation. That's Chazal. Chazal teaches that. Okay, but they didn't know that, Kot Shenishbu, they don't know better. What should they do? And when they heard that news, they asked some Chabad guy that was in the hospital, was putting on tefillin to people, who's the biggest rabbi who makes miracles? And he told them the Baba Sali. Baba Sali it is. They took a cab. They ended up by the Baba Sali. And even though by the Baba Sali took a long time to get in, whatever, those lines, and he normally only saw people in the wee hours of the morning or some short periods in the afternoon, because it was such an emergency and they were so whatever, so the person in charge there, he decided that he's going to break the rule and he's going to take that paper in right then and there to the Baba Sali. Takes the paper in, he reads the paper to the Baba Sali. They have a father/husband that's sick with this and the sickness, and the doctor said, Machar zayom acharon shelo, tomorrow is his last day, and they're asking for the rabbi to give a blessing that he should have a refuah shlema. And the Baba Sali looks at his gabbai and he tells him, call him in. The Gabbai said, he thought he didn't hear right. Well, he doesn't see women, he didn't see his own family. His own grandchildren, if they were females, he wouldn't see. He thought he heard wrong. So he read the paper again, thinking that the Baba Sali must have heard wrong. Therefore, he said that wrong. So I got angry at him. Not angry, but like frustrated. He said, I heard and I told you, bring them in. Okay, Baba Sali says, the Baba Sali says. He brings the mother and the daughter in. And he tells them like this, you're coming to me saying that tomorrow is his last day. What do you want from me? What do you want? So they start crying, whatever, he's so young and we love him and he needs to live and to be healthy. Blessedly, he should be healthy. If the doctor said tomorrow is the last day, there's only one way I could help. They said, what? They told him, if you and your daughter both take upon yourselves right now tzniut, but not part tzniut, 100%, A to Z, to the point that you take a commitment that from my room right now, you're going to go to the first store that sells women's clothing that are modest, and you're not even going to go back to the hospital without modest clothes. You're going to buy clothes there and change your clothing already right now. Then I promise you that not only tomorrow is not going to be his last day, tomorrow he's going to get up, be healthy, and stand on his own feet. The mother wasn't religious. She didn't realize that tzaddikim have powers. So to her, that sounded far-fetched. So she said, Chacham, we're willing to try and do tzniut, but, it sounds a little crazy that tomorrow, I don't know if she said it sounds crazy. She kind of hinted So Vasali got tough with her, and he picked up a chumash, and he said, if tomorrow he doesn't get up, then the chumash is not true. That's scary words to say already. You don't even say that as a joke. He was trying to show how confident he is. This mother and daughter later on said over the story, that's how we know the story. They went running to the first store in Netivot. They bought everything tznius that could be. They left their clothes behind. They shouldn't even have a temptation to ever use it again. And they went back to the hospital. And the next morning, their father woke up and he looked like a healthy man, and he stood up on his own 2 feet. And he started yelling at the doctors that the pipes and the this and that's annoying him. They should take it all off of him already. He wants to go home. And within less than a week, he was home healthy. A man who nobody gave him any hope. And even the American geniuses in the field said, there's no way, let him go die in peace in Israel. When they had a nest like this, of course, tzniut was a no-brainer at that point. The whole family turned around, not just them. The entire extended family became Baalei Teshuvah because of this story. But they felt an obligation to go back to the Baba Sali to say thank you. So they went back to the Baba Sali. When they went back, this time the Baba Sali already didn't let the ladies come in. I guess when they weren't religious, he had to get them to do what he had to do. But now they're okay, what does he have to do? But the husband, the one that was sick and now is healthy, he brought him in. He sat him down, and he told his Gabayim to make a Su'udah. The Baba Sali a lot of times made a Su'udah a few times throughout the day. He randomly had things from Shamayim that they told him to make a Su'udah, either for Ilui Neshama of a Tzaddik or for other reasons that I have no idea what they are. And he would, randomly, and it had nothing to do with the biological clock. It wasn't like supper time or lunchtime. And so the house was always ready. Like, the Baba Sali says Su'udah, within 5 minutes, boom, the table's set, and there's a full Moroccan feast. I don't know, maybe they had a few good chefs on staff over there. I'm not sure what went on there. And then he told them to bring, as usual, machya, arak, to bring a lot of arak. So they brought. Poured everybody and that, and he said, Baba Sali started saying, see, he got healthy. And when the Baba Sali was saying, see, he got healthy, the guy had a few araks in him. So he had the guts. So he turned to the Baba Sali and he said, but the doctor said, my kids told me that I was dying, and like, how are you so confident? Like, what happened? So the Baba Sali starts laughing and tells him, you know better than me. Why are you asking me? And when the Baba Sali says that, the guy turns colors and people realize there must be something going on. And they coach him in, yeah, share with us, what happened? He says like this. He said he was already dead. He remembered the conversations that were going on in the room. That means his Neshama was already out of his body. And he went up to Shamayim. He said they had a whole, everything was ready. Welcome to the heavenly court. And suddenly an old man came and said his name and said, I say he has to go back and be healthy immediately. And as soon as he said those words, they threw me back into my body as a healthy man. So the Baba Sali listens to this and turns to him and he says, and what was that man's name? He said, I don't remember. He said, if I tell you names, would you remember? He said, yeah, then I'd probably remember. He says, was his name maybe Shlomo? And the guy is like shaking and he says, yeah, that's who it was. He said he's Shlomo. So the Baba Sali told him, let me tell you exactly what happened. Your wife and daughter came and asked me I'm not a miracle maker. Can't help you. Nothing I can do for you. He was dying. That's it. It's over. Hashem, your days in this world were over. But then they told me that the doctor said, Machar zayom acharon. Tomorrow is the last day. And suddenly it hit me. Shlomo HaMelech wrote in Eshet Chayil, Oz ve'adar levusha vatischak b'yom ha'acharon. Oz ve'adar levusha refers to the modesty of a Jewish woman. So I right away told her to go put on tzniut. And as soon as they left my house, I went up to Shamayim, whatever that means, I don't know. And I went to Shlomo HaMelech. And I told him, you promised in that Tanakh, Oz ve'adar levusha vatischak b'yom ha'acharon. That the Yom HaAcharon is not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a happy day tomorrow. Now make sure he's healthy tomorrow. And that's why Shlomo HaMelech went to Bedin Shel Mala to fulfill his promise of what he wrote in Mishlei. Is that a wild story with the Baba Sali? Is that like out of this world completely? It's the Baba Sali. The Yotzai was today. Daled Shvat. Like before Shkiyat today. Zchuto Yagen Aleinu. So of course, if the inyan that the Zohar says that the Bnei Shmael of Koach in Eretz Yisrael is because of inyanei tzniut, so the more chizuk in tzniut that Am Yisrael has, and tzniut is not only for women, it's more for men than women. Men have to know where to put their eyes and where to be and where not to be. It's not a bad idea. For everybody. And even in small steps, but a little chizuk. So that brings Moshiach closer, and that prevents tragedy and pain and suffering for the Jewish nation. I'll tell you an unbelievable thing. One of the boys told me that he's going to some wedding, whatever. So innocently asked him, and I normally don't even ask, I don't know why I came out like that, because I don't want to hear the answer, that's why I don't ask. If it's separate or not. So they told me, I plead the fifth. You understand when somebody tells you I plead the fifth, what that means. So then I felt already obligated. Normally I wouldn't say anything, but then I felt obligated. If we were, tell him, tzaddik, you know, you lose your olam haba, what are you doing? Go for the chuppah and leave, that's it, you know. I can't. It's my friend, all the stories. I said, yeah, it is your friend. The Satan himself is your friend. He's the one who's pulling you there. Don't go, it's not worth it. I got nowhere. And there's a boy who, we have a good relationship, we love each other. Finally, I said, okay, if I can't get everything, let me get something. So I told him, until what time are you planning on staying by the wedding? Said that he plans on leaving at 11 o'clock, and he has a reason why the plan. He explained to me that he has to be a certain place by a certain time, and how long it takes, and what the time it takes to get the car, and he has to leave himself 10 minutes leeway for traffic, and whatever. So I said, how about you do something really for Hashem, but if you're not going to do it for Hashem, so at least convince yourself you're doing it for me, if that'll motivate you. Leave 10:45. I figured 15 minutes less, Marot Asurot, that's already Gan Eden. He says, yeah, that's no big deal. And he's my friend, he talks to me openly. He says, now you're going to bug off? I said, that's it. Now I plead the fifth after that. I'm staying quiet. He says, we have a deal. Okay. The wedding was the same night that I was talking to him. That evening, it's about 9 o'clock at night, I see a text message, call me, you're going to like this one. So I call him, and he picks up, and then he tells me the chuppah was just over, and I left. I'm not staying. Not only that, my friend respected it, he didn't get insulted and that, and he even told me, you could tell the other guys, there's a whole group that come to shiurim or listen to shiurim, that they could also leave, I won't get insulted. He said, so a few of us left. I said, what do you mean? You just told me a few hours ago that Yarek Val Yavo, you're going to kill me before you leave practically. So what happened that you left? Tell me, I'll tell you the truth. I don't have a good grasp of time in my life. Every meeting I have to go to, I'm late to. Every school, everything I do in my life is always late. And I made a promise, and by me, a word to you is a word. So the entire chuppah, I'm looking at my clock. What time is it? Right after the chuppah, I'm looking at my clock. What time it is? It was non-stop. He said, I didn't have a watch. I kept on taking off my phone out of my pocket, looking. What time? He says, the chuppah is over, and I'm walking upstairs to the wall. I'm looking, what time is it? Knowing that I have to keep track of time, because I said 10:45, I'm leaving. Then I said to myself, you're a hypocrite. If there's a reason to leave 10:45, how are you walking in the first place? And if not, then don't leave 10:45 and stop being busy with your stupid phone. Enjoy your friend's wedding. So I went to my friend and I told him, listen, this is the deal. Hashem doesn't want this. I know it's your wedding night. I understand everything. But trust me, for your blessing, you don't want me to be here. At least one person less will sin. And instead of getting upset, he hugged me and kissed me and told me, sure, and that, and take the friends and go. And I'm totally fine with it. He said, so we all left. And he tells me, but now we're bored. Do you happen to be in Queens to keep us busy till 10:45? I told him, number one, I happen to be in Queens. But number two, even if I didn't, I would take a helicopter to come hug you right now. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu has this attitude. Other religions, it's everything, all these cults and crazy things, and whatever, religion. It's insanity. Everything's extreme, everything or nothing. But Hashem is not like that. Just make a little step, a tiny step, something. Now Hashem says, I'll take care of the rest already. If he would have not cared to leave at 10:45, he would have done all the Averot that night. Because at that point, there's no Siyat D'Shmaya. Hashem doesn't help him. Because he cared enough to what seems silly almost, right? Big deal, 15 minutes. Hashem said, you're willing to sacrifice something for me? I'm willing to do a lot for you. And this is a big yesod. If Bnei Yishmael have power in Eretz Yisrael because of Inyanei Kedusha and Tzniut, the only meaning Brit Milah, the only solution is to go the other way, and is to keep Kedusha and Tzniut. And probably, I'm not a gadol, so don't take this as a fact, just as my assumption, but probably one of the reasons why Israel has as many military miracles that they have on an hourly basis that there's no way to explain, it's just simply irrational, and that they're at their forefront of warfare and security, and the whole world learns from them, whoever is on good terms with them, is because there's hundreds of thousands, us as Americans don't even understand what this means, of people today in Israel, when everybody has at least one smartphone, probably many more. Some people need two, some people need three, one for milchik, one for fleishiks, one for parv, there's different reasons, one for business, one for pleasure, whatever, each one has his reasons why, Hashem Yachim. In Israel, there's hundreds of thousands of teenagers and adults that are Haredi Jews that have a phone that doesn't even send a text message. Because maybe they're going to be tempted to see things that they shouldn't see and they want to stay away from it. Now, I'm not saying that's what we're holding and that's what we should do. Every person with what's right for him. But that's a Kiddush Hashem, what should I tell you? When I walk around the streets of Bnei Brak and see them with these flip phones that they don't even make already for who knows how many years, and I tell a guy innocently, send me a text, somebody asks for a donation, or whatever, he says, send me a text with your address and I'll send you a check. He says, well, what's a text? Smile, I'm glowing, I'm flying high. I'm like, this really exists? This is real? But believe it or not, you gotta give credit over here also. In Lakewood, there are Kolo guys. I'm not talking about working people. Today in America, work, you gotta do what you gotta do. There's no way to function. But in Lakewood Yeshiva, there's tons of Kolo guys that are exactly the same way. It's unreal. Unreal. That's a big Kiddush Hashem in Kedusha and Tzniut. There's a big tikkun in Kedusha and Tzniut. And that power, these tzaddikim, is a power to protect Klal Yisrael. That protects the others that are doing to the opposite extreme. That's how we're being saved from all these crazy parades that they have in Tel Aviv of all these lunatics that didn't decide what gender they belong to yet. They're still confused. You should go maybe to 6th grade in elementary school, learn some biology, they'll figure it out. But I guess they don't care enough to go there either. But who protects us from all of that? These tzaddikim that are living such a pure life. It's unreal. It's literally unreal. It's a big Kiddush Hashem. All right, I got a lot of good stuff to say tonight, but I'm out of time. So I'm going to end up with a story. And a commitment, bli neder. It doesn't depend on me. It depends on the tzaddikim that run my the Biyachad YouTube channel. That is where my stuff's posted on Fridays. But assuming that they cooperate, then tomorrow after the shiur, we're going to break the normal rule that on my regular group chats we don't post anything else. And we're also going to post a song. Because I'm ending off the shiur saying over a story that it seems like everybody knows except for me, but what should I do? I didn't know it. That I learned from a song. So tomorrow you're going to also get the song. Because honestly, out of all Jewish music that I listened to my whole life, this was by far the most touching song I ever listened to. And it came out already a few weeks ago. I just got it on Tuesday, I think it was. And it's been my only thing on my playlist. I have no more playlists. It's on loop. It's like nonstop. It's over and over and over again. It's mind-boggling. We're coming to the end, I guess, of the season of what a great Kiddush Hashem of the Siyumei HaShas around the world. Unreal. Literally unreal. Stadiums filled up, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, each play, 90,000 here, 20,000. Like the numbers of thousands, they say so freely, it's unreal. Now, I'm not getting into if everybody really learned it or not. I don't care. These are Jews that respect the Torah. That also is a blessing. At the end of the day, there's a lot of Kvod Shamayim over here. In Israel, in South Africa, in this, and all over. Look what Dirshu does. People that were tested on the whole Shas. So nobody should tell me the story. They don't know, they don't learn. Dirshu has hundreds of people that made it Siyum HaShas in this round, this cycle, that were tested on the entire Shas. They know Shas through and through. Not one, not two, not 10, hundreds. Who would think that in today's generation, in 2020, we would be able to say that hundreds of people were just tested on Shas and know it through and through? You know what a Kiddush Hashem that is? There's no way to explain. If there's anybody that's alive today that I'm for sure jealous of his Gan Eden, for sure, but like to a crazy extreme, it's David Hofstadter, the head of Dirshu. What he did, a man with a vision, a wealthy businessman who one day decided that he's going to devote his life to motivating people to study more and to know they're learning more through giving them money and incentives of tests and other things. He turned the face of the Olam HaYeshivot around and built Torah. Unreal. If I merit to see a glimpse of the dust under his feet in Gan Eden, I'm also satisfied. That would be a very big blessing for me. It's literally unreal what this man did. Siyum after Siyum. So one of the Siyumim is a nice Hasidic Israeli singer, from guy, special guy, named Mati Steinmetz, who sang a song. The song's a story. Here's how the story goes. And tomorrow, Bli Neder, my groups, they'll post the song as well, because I think everybody should have it on his playlist too. The names I might botch up. Sorry, my memory's not that perfect when it comes to names of stories. But the idea is, you'll get it from there. The idea is right. One day, there's a famous Magid Shiur of the Daf Yomi that's walking on the street of Jerusalem 2 days before the Siyum HaShas in Israel. Not this year, years ago. And as he's walking on the street, leaving his shiur, walking home, a guy comes over to him and tells him that his name is Yankel HaKoines. Yankel is Yaakov. HaKoines is the title of a perek in the Gemara, a chapter in the Gemara. That's his name. Okay, yeah, how can I help you? He says, Rabbi, I have a question. I never finished Shas, but I want to partake in the Siyum HaShas. Could I partake? That's what he asked the Rabbi. I said, sure, what's the question? He says, no, I want to tell you my story. I want to tell you why I'm asking. Listen to this. He lived in a town, unfortunately, the Doshei Elyon that died in World War II, before the war. He was a child in school. And today we would call learning disabled, or dyslexic, or I don't know what. It wasn't working. He wasn't able to learn. They tried teaching him, his parents, everybody's trying, and he's not picking up on anything. It's not working. And his class is learning Gemara, and he's not, then there wasn't special schools and special this. They didn't have that back then. It's a problem. So normally, by the way, historically, in those days, what it used to be, if you couldn't learn Torah, so immediately, even at the age of 9, they would put you out to work, because at least you should do something. You have to be a productive member of society. One day he comes home from cheder, school, his father's sitting there, and his father pulls out of his pocket a gold coin. A gold coin back then was like saying a bloody fortune today. And he tells him, my dear son, I want to make you a deal. If you could figure out a way to memorize one page in the whole Shas, just one page, one Daf Gemara, when you finish memorizing it, I will give you this gold coin. Unreal. This kid saw a gold coin. That was a kid's biggest dream in the world. That's like a kid today feeling like he's winning the lottery. And that gave him a big motivation, and he used to go to school every single day and slave away. And he said over to this rabbi that the same routine repeated itself every night. He would come home at night, and both his parents, listen to this, is mind-boggling, were dressed in Bigdei Shabbat, in Shabbat clothing, both his parents, waiting to greet him. And he would say over 1 or 2 lines, whatever he was able to memorize that day. Finally, the day came, he finished the Daf Gemara. He said it was a huge yontiv. Huge yontiv. Happiest parents in the world. They gave him his gold coin, big celebration. That Yankele finished a Daf Gemara in Perek HaKoines. That's where he got the nickname from. And then, unfortunately, life turned not so nice. The cloud went over Nazi Germany and the rest of those parts of Europe. And his parents were killed. His family was killed. He was sent to Buchenwald. He ended up being saved. After he was saved, somehow he got to Israel and he got a job. And he used to go to shul at night because he wanted to learn. Because he knew how important learning was to his parents. It was in his blood from the way they raised him. But he doesn't know how to learn. And he would try to get people to teach him. And unfortunately, it's embarrassing to say, I'm not judging, everybody had their own problems back then. Nobody had the patience for the dummy. But he still wanted to learn. So he would sit there in the Beit Midrash every night and review the one Daf Gemara that he still remembered by heart. And he turns to this Magid Shiur 2 days before the Siyum HaShas. And he tells him, Rebbe, I know I didn't learn Shas, but I reviewed the one Daf Gemara that I was capable of learning 2,771 times, the same amount of pages that there are in the whole Shas. Could I also make a Siyum HaShas? Is that wild? Doesn't see what's going on here? He had every right to quit. He had every right to say, I went through World War II. My parents were killed. My brothers were killed. My sisters were killed. He had every right to be resentful, hateful. On top of that, he tried to learn. Nobody wanted to teach him. I learned the one daf that I know 2,771 times. Could I also make a siyum hashas? And this Magid Shiur looks at him and he says, you can make a siyum hashas, but on one condition. That we're going to trade. You're going to make my siyum hashas, and I'm going to make your siyum hashas. Because my siyum hashas is a siyum on the Gemara. Your siyum hashas is what's going to cause the ending of suffering and exile for Am Yisrael. Because Baruch Hu should help that right now, Dafka in this season, that so much of Klal Yisrael made so many siyumei hashas and did so many big things in Chizuk Torah, and that there's so much tzedakah going on, especially in the past 10 days when the yeshivot in Israel are on the verge of bankruptcy due to the corrupt Israeli government that decided to take away their money. And American Jews are coming through in the masses and in the millions. And so there's Torah being learned, there's Torah being supported, it's unreal what's going on. At that zchut should help, that should be the ultimate fight. Ma ya'aseh adam v'yinatzel mechevlo shel Mashiach, ya'asok b'Torah, which we do, it will be gmilut chasadim we should do, and that'll be the siyum of the galut of Yishmael and Edom together. Amen ve'amen. Bruchim to you.